get an accident.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Talking to the Doll Benfica Podcast, episode number 194. Benfica Podcast, your weekly source for Benfica talk on the interweb. So thank you for checking us out. For you guys that take the time to check us out, subscribe to us on iTunes and so on and so forth. We're very happy that you're able to do that and support us. With me tonight, Patrick Kendrick. What's going on, Patrick?
Good evening, Alfredo. Good evening, Benfiquistas all over the world. It's been a good week.
Yeah, definitely has. And also with us, as he always is, whether on land, in sea, or in the air, Cristiano Oliveira.
Olá, amigos. Tudo bem?
All right. So on tonight's agenda, we will look back at quite an incredible week for Benfica, starting with the Sporting win. Of course, we've already discussed that, but we're going to talk about the Zenit game, the second leg of Benfica's knockout stage of the UEFA Champions League. We'll also take a look at the game against Tondela, which happened yesterday at Stade de Luz, and we'll look ahead to Boavista game that comes up this weekend. Benfica will travel up north to play Boavista. This is before the international break, where the national team is going to play, and Benfica is going to have at least a week to rest and get some players back to their health. Let's start with the Zenit game. Benfica traveled to Russia, to very cold Russia, to play Zenit, and I'll give you the lineup. Ederson was in goal. Julio Cesar still recuperating. Semedo on the right. Almeida was serving a suspension. Samaris and Lindelof, a duo that we haven't seen yet. Eliseu was on the left. Feza and Renato Sanches in the middle. Pizzi and Gaetan on the wings. Jonas and Mitroglou up front. So basically, I think that we had speculated here who would play in the back alongside Lindelof and Patrick. Samaris seemed like the no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of his real strengths. That's what makes him such an asset to Benfica, is the fact that he's very good in what is his natural position as a six, as a defensive midfielder, but he's also versatile enough to slot in at defense at centre back as and when he's needed. You would think on paper they ordinarily wouldn't need him because they have four very good centre backs, the fourth of which has been a bit of a revelation in recent times, Lindelof. We didn't know too much about him. We'd heard good things from the B team. I know some of the listeners are able to watch B team games, etc. And obviously he had that good showing in last year's European Under-21 Championships, but he's been real standout. So for him to be the almost more senior centre back, the actual recognisable centre back for a game of such importance was astonishing, really. And I thought Samaris did very well. It was almost as if you were to come in and watch that game for the first time and not having seen Benfica before, you wouldn't have noticed that he was unless you were potentially very tactically astute. I don't think you would have noticed any difference that wasn't a genuine, recognisable, bona fide, fully fledged centre back.
He wasn't that good. He wasn't that good at the beginning of the game, guys. Let's be honest.
No,
he looked
wasn't.
He looked a little shaky. But yeah, in the end, the guy looked like a perfect fit. He looked like he adapted very well to the position. And then that's all that matters, is that, he did the dirty work that he had to do. And like you said, Patrick, towards the end of the game, if you didn't know that the guy's natural position was not at center back, you wouldn't have ever, thought that this guy was adapting to a new position in this game.
Yeah, and Cristiano, Patrick is talking about Lindelof, and Lindelof perhaps a few weeks back, there was a lot of questions of whether Lindelof was going to be able to step in for Lisandro, but now he's almost like an afterthought. People don't even think twice about having Lindelof in the back.
100%. The guy's done nothing but good things. I was one of the critics. I was one of the guys I wondered whether he was ready to play at this level yet, because we did see him in a Taça da Cerveja game one time, and I wasn't really impressed. And I said, okay, guys, now's the time to step up against the big boys. He played against Futebol Clube Porto. He kept Slimani in his pocket. He went out, did the same thing with the big strikers of Zenit. He got a little lucky on a couple of plays where the dude broke through the defense, and Ederson came out and saved the day. But nonetheless, the guy's been spectacular. I think right now, I don't want to jinx him, but right now, man, everyone that's listened to this podcast over the last year and a half knows how I feel about Lisandro. But right now, I'm not sure that once Lisandro does come back 100% fit, that I slide him back in there over the kid. I think the kid's been spectacular. And I think it's going to be real hard to pry him away from that position at this point.
Yeah, and we just learned today that he got called up as first international A-team call-up for Sweden. So very good for Lindelof. We're all happy. And I think with Patrick, a lot with the center backs, it has a lot to do with how much game rhythm you get in there. Once you get in that groove and you're used to it week in, week out, then you really have almost like an instinct for playing and playing well, which is something that when you see somebody come off the bench thrown in, you don't always have the same thing, but he did well his first time out, and his confidence has grown since then.
Yeah, absolutely. And just quickly on that Sweden call-up, it's very significant, the timing of that, because if there is a time to break in to a squad for the first time, with 2 international fixtures coming up for every team involved in the Euros, and Sweden are in the same group as Ireland, Italy, and Belgium, so quite a tough group. I mean, it is now. So if he were to feature enough in one or both of the next 2 games, he could potentially be on the plane for Sweden, which is really a meteoric rise. This is someone who's playing the European Under-21 Championships last year, so there was no given that he would make that transition, and that is all down to the form that he's been showing for one of Europe's top clubs. You know, he's going to be playing in a Champions League quarter-final now, and he was in no way out of place, at a tough place to go in Zenit. And as you said, he has been very good. He's got into that rhythm. I thought, arguably, there was some. He made a bit of a shaky start. I mean, I know we'll get on to the game the other night later on, but there were a few hairy moments at the start against Tondela the other evening. I thought, with almost a bit of complacency, I felt creeping in with Benfica's shape defensively. But he has these raw skills which you can't really coach. He's quicker, deceptively quicker than you naturally think. He's a powerful man. I mean, he's got everything from a physical perspective that he needs to be a success. I think his potential is very good indeed, and I completely agree with Cristiano. As long as he is fit and Jardel is fit, it's obviously not going to be the case if Luizão were to come back 100% before the end of the season because of what he's achieved and because of the leader he is. But I think if the pair of them are fit, they're currently first choice and on merit. Yeah. Jardel and Lindelof.
Yeah, here's one of the things that impressed me about Lindelof in that Zenit game was the fact that he was able to slide to the left side of the center back pairing, obviously to accommodate Samaris, which is more of a right-footed player. But Lindelof, I've started to see Lindelof break lines with this passing, and even from a more left position, left center position, he was passing with his left foot, and his passes were as accurate as the ones with his right foot. And that's the thing that kind of have impressed me about Lindelof. He is calm, composed, and he's very confident in what he does. And I thought, in general, Cristiano, I thought the team just looked very confident. How many times do we see Benfica traveling outside of Estádio da Luz, or outside of Lisbon for that matter, going on his European fixtures and just like playing really shy against these teams? And I thought that Benfica was very confident against Zenit. They played their own style. Obviously, Zenit was going to come at them, but I thought that Benfica wasn't shy or nervous at all in this game.
This might be one of the very rare moments where I'm going to give Rui Vitória credit, but I will here, because he said prior to the game that Benfica were going to go to Zenit to score. They were going to go to Zenit to play attacking football and not just sit back on the 1-0 lead. And that's exactly what they did. We know most of the time these coaches come out and they say all this gibberish and then they do nothing about it. And that's why I'm praising them, because they did exactly that. Then in the second half, it got a little bit sticky. And, fortunately, we were a little bit lucky where we came out on top. But that's the criticism that I have towards Rui Vitória. I think Benfica played really well in the first half. They played the same thing with Sporting, same thing with Porto. They played, pretty decent first halves, and they pack it in the second half. And it just gets ugly, and that's something that I'm going to keep harping on when it comes to Rui Vitória. But sticking to this one Zenit game, Benfica looked very comfortable, like you said. They went out there, they looked for the goal, and unfortunately they couldn't get in the first half, packed it in a little bit in the second half, and then only when they had to come forward on a counter, they were able to capitalize. Jimenez, I'm telling you, when he cocked back and he was ready to shoot, I was like, I put my head between my hands. I said, what the hell is this guy doing? and then I see the ball coming off the post, and I just start jumping. I mean, it was one of those very exciting moments, man. But yeah, still a lot for me, at least in my eyes, to criticize Rui Vitoria. Lindelof, spectacular. But to me, the one guy that no one talks about, and Patrick, you better agree with me on this, bro. My boy Paposeco, man, he keeps killing it. He keeps killing it out on the left. The guy goes up against top quality opposition, and you can't do nothing about it. The guy is spectacular to this day. He's not a world beater, but he gets the job done, and that's one of the positions that all of us, not just myself, but every Benfica in the world has questioned at some point or another. And Paposeco just keeps coming through time and time again, performing to the best of his ability at least, and shutting everybody down. And Benfica just keep winning and moving on, and nobody ever praises my boy. What's up with that?
I think on several occasions I've said that I've never really shared all the doom and gloom surrounding Eliseu, to be honest. It's exactly a year to the day, albeit now we're into the 16th of March, but I got to Portugal on the 15th of March last year. I did 5 games at the end of last season. I've done the bulk of the home games this season, and for me, he very rarely puts a foot wrong. I mean, the reverse fixture against Tondela was the sort of low point of the season for him. That was when he was dropped completely, and we had the rather unprecedented fullback duo of Clésio and Silvio. But I think there's a reason why Fernando Santos picks him on a regular basis as the starter for Portugal, for a Portugal side, by the way, that wins a lot of games 1-0. So for all the midfield talent in that side, for all the ability of Cristiano Ronaldo, a lot of Portugal's success is built on a defence that features Ricardo Carvalho at the ripe old age of 38 and the likes of Eliseu. And I have to say that he's got a lot better positionally for me over the last year. I know that he didn't necessarily develop as a left back. I remember earlier in his career when he was at Lazio, where he wasn't particularly a success. He was playing a lot further forward. I believe that was the case at Malaga as well. So it's like anything. It does take time. I think it's a common transition for someone to be a more attacking wide player and then be coached and be trained in such a way that they can then acquire more defensive discipline. Because more than anything, it's about discipline. If you're able to play further forward, then you're able to do what's required defensively. It's about positioning, it's about anticipation, and it's about focus more than anything else. And occasionally he switches off, but he seems to be doing his job first and foremost defensively, which I think has been the big change in him. Yeah. And we no longer see those diagonal balls where Eliseu is 30 yards further up the pitch and he's caught out, and then suddenly Jardel has to come across, and that leaves a potential overload on the other side, and all these different things. I mean, we miss Steve a bit on this score because he's our chalkboard man, but from my sort of layman's viewpoint, I really have seen a notable marked change in Eliseu's discipline and behaviour on the pitch, I would say.
Yeah, he has brought some regularity to the left back position, a position that Benfica always struggled with from the days of since we lost Coentrão and other guys. I mean, we could go on forever naming of absolute flops that have played at Benfica's left back position. But he's brought some regularity to the position. He's not extraordinarily good at anything in particular, but he is a steady defender that uses his experience, his veteranship to control guys such as Oak, such as
João Mario. Listen, it's not always pretty, but it's efficient, and he gets the job done. It's ugly most of the time, and that's the thing I think I like about him the most is that he fights through it. When everybody else doubts him, he just puts his head down and he fights and he fights and he fights. The guy jump on top of the ball and like he just does crazy stuff out there half the time. Like, what is he doing? But it works, man. It works. I don't know what it is. It works.
Not to mention that he's a huge Benfiquista, and so that's always a big plus. And he's playing for a contract, which we really haven't seen any signs that Benfica intends on signing him. And of course, with Grimaldo in the wings, and you also got the Rebosho from the B team. I don't know if the right step would be to sign Eliseu to a contract that's probably his wages are going to be up there, being he's a veteran player. So I'm not really sure what's going on there, but he has brought a little bit of a regularity to Benfica's left side.
I wouldn't mind bringing. I'm sorry, but I
Right.
wouldn't mind bringing him back for at least another season. There's still a lot of question marks with Grimaldo. Even let's say Raboshu. There's too many question marks with these guys. You don't have one guy right now on this team that's going to give you the assurances that he does at least. And if for anything, he could be there for the veteran leadership to teach these guys and groom these guys into being the future at Benfica. So I wouldn't mind bringing him back.
Absolutely. I was making a point on commentary the other night. We hope that Julio Cesar comes back to full fitness as quickly as possible. Not sure he's going to feature again this season, but Ederson is doing very well. I'm sure we'll get onto that later. But you could really have a sort of mentorship role for Eliseo there, where maybe he only plays half of the league games next season, if that is the idea with the management. They don't want to keep him on. So perhaps you pay his wages for another year. You see how many games he can start, and then you start to introduce Grimaldo, who's certainly been signed with a view to the future, I think, and anyone else that might want to step in. You never know. I think there's going to be a usual flood of signings over the summer. Many of them won't get a look in, but that's something we've criticised in the past, and we'll see whether that continues. But I think on merit, that was his first league title last season. As things stand, he's on course for 2 titles out of 2, and I think he's really earned a year's contract extension, if not longer. And make no mistake, he'll be in the Portugal squad as well for Euro 2016.
I just know Twitter is about to blow up with everybody critiquing our Eliseo talk. But you know what? The guy's done good, and like I've said it many times, when you struggle, I'm gonna call you out, and when you do good, I'm gonna praise you as well. Yeah, he's not a world beater, he's not the world's best left back.
Except with Rui Vitória.
Except with Rui Vitória. And I give him, like I said, I'll tip my cap when I have to. I'm still pissed off that he's still playing Pizzi every day, but we'll get to that in just a little bit because I wanted to touch up on the Julio Cesar. Pat, you said he might not feature again this season, but yesterday prior to the game, he had an interview with Benfica TV where he actually played Inácio. I was like, who? I've never heard of that guy. Everyone pretty much knows exactly what I'm talking about, Inácio. But he did say that he just got a scan, I guess recently, he said, and it came back, and he's ahead of time as far as recuperating time. So he's ahead of schedule. Yeah. So he thinks he'll be back quicker than the 6 week or whatever the original time was that they anticipated.
Let me, for those of you who were less into the Portuguese news and don't read Portuguese, I'll give you a little bit of a background on the story that Chris was just talking about. Inácio, who's one of the sporting directors from Sporting Lisbon, of course, he said that the reason why Julio Cesar was pushed away from the team or sat down or whatever you want to call it was because there's a dispute with his contract renewal. Of course, in these days and to the end of the season, you're going to listen and hear and read to a lot of things that are going to be saying by other teams to destabilize the Benfica team, and this is just one of the things. Julio Cesar, as Chris said, has responded by saying, I don't even know who this guy is, and all I really need to do is put pen to paper as far as the negotiations are going and the renewal is going. So it's a non-story, and of course, as I've said, a lot of talk to trying to destabilize this team. Ederson, by the way, has done tremendous. I mean, that game in Russia, there's a very good pair of saves there in Russia, including one coming out to the feet of a player who was about to score, and he got to the ball first. But there was a few other saves that very, very impressed by him, Patrick.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to clarify that, I believe Julio Cesar has already signed 1 contract extension since being at Benfica, so he's not one of the players out of contract this summer anyway. So there's no risk there.
He's not.
Let's just be clear on that. There's no risk of him leaving the club this summer. What I was referring to with Ederson is just that Julio Cesar is now 36, so he is going to. In all likelihood, he's only got a couple. Unless he keeps going and plays till he's 40, like.
The one thing about
many illustrious goalkeepers have done in the past. We're seeing how well Gigi Buffon's done at the moment, 903 minutes, so without conceding in Italy's top league, although perhaps with the help of some performance-enhancing drugs. No, I didn't say that. But let's get back to Ederson and let's probably erase those comments from the record in case I have to work with him again in the future. No, what I would say about Ederson is he's 22, but he's looked very mature. What I like about him is he's actually better with his feet than we first thought. I was reading a piece in Abola in the build-up to Monday's game, in which they even spoke about supposedly he scored in a win for Benfica's juniors team in 2010-11 against Braga, 7-1 win. I presume he was playing in goal. It didn't really describe the details of that goal. I don't know if it was a long ball punted from a goal kick and a mistake, or whether he came up and took a free kick. He has been known to take free kicks, actually. It was a good piece on... it wasn't. Sorry, it was a piece on from Record, which I read online. Sorry, and just to clarify that, I don't want to attribute it to the wrong paper. But it was quite an interesting sort of profile on him from the week before, following his great performance against Sporting. His heroes, Rogério Ceni, growing up, the free kick scoring Brazilian goalkeeper who's a legend back in Brazil with Sao Paulo. And apparently, from all accounts, he's very good with his feet, and I've been very impressed with him as well. As you said, I thought the stop in the first half when he came out and swatted the ball away, it was a stardom. It reminded me a lot of Peter Schmeichel, actually, when he was younger, and he got there and just made sure he got something on the ball. And had he not taken the ball, it would have been a foul, because inevitably then he made contact with the player having made the save, and that would have been a penalty and a red card. That would have been Benfica out then and there. But he seems to make big saves at the right time. There was a bit of a scare against Tondela when he went down receiving treatment, and then the cameras panned to Paulo Lopes, who's not played for 2 seasons. He's 37, and when he did play 2 seasons ago, it was for a 2-game stint. But from my understanding, he's very much there as a popular figure in the dressing room, etc., sort of father figure. So it would have been interesting to see him get on the pitch. He was one of the players that we expected to see against Marítimo on the last day of last season when Benfica had won the league against Guimarães, but he didn't get on there because I seem to recall we had an injury and the third sub was made, and then once again they were panning to him looking thoroughly fed up on the bench. But no, Ederson, touch wood, will keep fit for the duration of Julio Cesar's injury, and I don't think we have any concerns there at all over what he's capable of. A very good signing from Benfica.
Yeah, absolutely. And his girlfriend's pretty nice. There's a video on Record about the day in the life of his girlfriend. Everybody go check that out.
Que vida.
She's got a nice life, and she's working out. There's a video of her working out. She has a YouTube channel.
And just the last touch on this, Julio Cesar, I think while the game was still going on, posted on his own Instagram account a picture of him alongside Luis Felipe Vieira, and he's like, yeah, encrustado. Look, I'm so encrustado, I'm sitting here with this guy. So I think he pretty much shut everybody up with those comments. And so, Sporting and everybody else could try all they want to do to destabilize this club. But I think right now, like Nico has said plenty of times, this is a club that these guys are as close as ever. And it's good to see. It's good to see because, like we've mentioned, we've had a couple of major injuries here at positions of huge impact. And we've just subbed in guys and replaced them with other guys that at one point or another we did not think that they could perform. At least I didn't to this level, and they haven't skipped a beat. So hat goes off to them.
Yeah, we definitely haven't lost much of or dropped much of quality with the guys that have come in, and certainly, Chris, that credit has to go to Vitória in the way that he has prepared the team, not only physically but mentally, and the way he works these guys out, what they're able to step in and not really be out of place, knowing exactly what the team is doing, the positioning, the routines. These guys that are stepping in are well versed with Rui Vitória's instructions. So perhaps that hadn't been a case with JJ. Of course, JJ didn't use as much rotativity as Vitória has done, and obviously Vitória, some of that has been also forced because of injuries. But Rui Vitória does seem to be a guy that has most of the team involved in what's going on, and with JJ we only saw the core of perhaps maybe 13, 14 players that always played, and the rest were just there, a spiar pro lado. But a few more thoughts on this Zenit game before we move on. Cristiano, we already mentioned the Jimenez goal, but quite fortunate. And some people said that that was a mistake by the goalie, but at that, for me,
the ball was dipping.
You got to go get that ball. He did overdive. He overdived the ball. The ball hits him in the inside of his hand and comes back into the goal. Hits the I don't know, does it hit the crossbar? I think it hits the crossbar, right?
It does.
Yeah, it does. I thought the ball was dipping. I thought if he didn't go up and get it, I thought the ball would have gone in. But like
I thought it would have gone in too.
Yeah, I think the ball would have gone in. I mean, at least the few replays that I saw, if he did not go up and dive for that ball, that would have gone in, and Jimenez would have looked like an even bigger hero. Because at first I was like, what the hell is this guy doing? Like I've said before, and it was just a tremendous shot. I mean, look, the guy. One thing we know about this guy, week in, week out, whether he plays well or not is a different question, but he's going to give it 150% every game, and that's what he did. He kept the ball alive. Tremendous shot, came off the crossbar. Nico, fortunate enough to be there to just tap it in with his head for the 1-1 draw at the time. But, yeah, to me, I don't know who in hell's criticizing that goalkeeper, because if he didn't go up and get it, the ball would have gone straight in.
Yeah, go ahead, Patrick.
Sorry, I just think that once you do get a hand to it, you as the goalkeeper, you're disappointed that you don't tip it over, or you don't push it onto the bar in such a way that it goes out or up in the air long enough for you to get to your feet or a defender to come back in. I think that's the disappointing thing. It's a bit unlucky, but getting such a strong hand to it, as you said, Alfredo, it seemed to come off the inside of his hand and then back onto the crossbar, which was what allowed Gaetan to come in and finish. He was very alert, by the way, following up on that rebound.
Yeah.
So a lot of players that might not have necessarily gambled on that or would have done so as an afterthought, caught on their heels, and by then the chance had gone. But it was sort of time stood still. It was great as you saw the ball come down from the crossbar and you saw him running towards it. You just knew what the result was going to be, and that was the big relief that after what was a fairly big refereeing mistake for me with the opening goal. I thought it was a clear foul on Nelson Semedo. I think justice was served, and there was a huge relief. For me, it was rather bizarre scenes because I was in London for Chelsea against Paris Saint-Germain, and I was watching it in the press room because of the kickoff time, which was good. I was quite thankful it was being played in Russia with the time difference. It meant that I didn't have to miss the game for Chelsea PSG. But no one was really watching. I was only able to put the game on in the press room myself against the backdrop of this remarkable buffet that they have in at the Chelsea press conference, which is famous. So there was a constant coming and going of journalists getting in front of the screen, etc. And I stood up there for 90 minutes trying to watch it, and gradually, probably from some of my yelps and cries and anguish, etc., a little crowd started to gather. A couple of curious curious French journalists, as ever. The rather at times complacent and arrogant English media didn't show too much interest. I had people coming by going, "Oh, this is everyone wants the winner of this one in the next round," etc., which I thought was quite disrespectful because a lot of them don't know either of the two sides. And one of the four people eventually stopping watching the game was former France manager Raymond Domenech. So there you go.
You're very kind to say that at times arrogant. You're just calling them at times arrogant. I think that's very nice.
After that and the Buffon revelation, I'm getting myself into trouble.
And that whole talk, what we take away from that whole talk from Patrick about Buffet served at the press room is that he was rubbing elbows with Raymond Domenech. That's what you get out of that conversation.
It was a great name drop, wasn't it? It was a long anecdote just to say that. But I turned around, and that was a man, lest we forget, who famously proposed to his wife in a press conference, having gone out of the 2010 World Cup. So rather one of the more bizarre press conferences you're likely to see there. There you go.
Patrick dropping the knowledge, the trivia, and the names. That's how we do it here on the Benfica Podcast. Anyway, so after that, let's just wrap this up real quick. So after the Gaetan goal, I thought that the game was pretty much done because then the Zenit had to score two, and we were already in the 80th minute when Gaetan scored. 85th minute when Gaetan scored.
84 something.
So
like that.
I thought that we had wrapped up. Delishka cleaned it up, put the game away, and I think that was done, and that was already in the added time. So good win for Benfica in Portugal, in Russia, and again, Benfica putting out the Russians, Zenit, which historically in the history of their club have never gone past that stage, and the 2 times that they had a chance to, Benfica has eliminated them both times. So quite a remarkable feat for Benfica by this season's standards alone. Now we await the drawing on Friday, this Friday the 18th, and we already know some of the teams they're going to play. PSG, Wolfsburg, Real Madrid, Man City, and Athletic Madrid qualified today. Barca and Arsenal. Barca holds the 2-0 advantage on that. They play tomorrow, and Juventus and Bayern also play tomorrow, and that's tied up at 2-2. So out of those 4, 2 will come out, and then we'll have your final 8 teams. Cristiano, I know that at this point, regardless of who it is, we got to play. But for you, do you have any preference? Oh, Cristiano left. Let's go with you, Patrick. Any preference?
I think on paper you go with Wolfsburg. I think. That said, I don't think German sides are ever easy to play. For me, as someone who follows Benfica and who is not, I just stress this, not a Benfica fan, but however, I am a Southampton fan. I'm a journalist first and foremost, I like to think, but I'm very strong sympathies with Benfica, as everyone is aware that follows this press conference. So from a journalistic side, I'd like to see Real Madrid personally. I think it would make a great story, them coming back to the stadium where they won their decima, their 10th title. I think 2 relatively inexperienced managers at this level, certainly on the Real Madrid side, Zidane's first job, and he has shown some weakness there. Rui Vitoria's first season at this level, he's doing very well. He's already won in Madrid this season as well, so it could be a story that winning at the Calderon and winning at the Bernabeu. I'm not saying that Benfica necessarily would, but it could be a bit of a story in that. Look, I don't give Benfica, I'm going to be very clear, I don't give Benfica a chance against Bayern or Juventus. I give them more of a chance against Juventus if the Italians were to go through, but I can't see that happening. I don't give them a chance against Barcelona. However, any of the other sides, I think over 2 legs, Benfica could get it done. I think Atletico Madrid, they've already played in the group. They won 1 game and lost 1 game, so they've shown that they can do something there. Manchester City are very Jekyll and Hyde. We've seen that in their Premier League form. Wolfsburg, I don't know too much about. I know they got through the group with Manchester United, but I think they can see. I think the last game finished 3-2, so they could be exposed defensively. Look, I'm not going to go through all of the teams, but although I pretty much have exhausted them already. But for me, as the glamour tide, go with Real Madrid. That's who I'd want. I think if you're if you draw I think if you draw Barcelona or Bayern Munich, then you're just going to those games to enjoy the spectacle. But I don't think Real Madrid are currently at the same. Breaks my heart a bit, but I don't think Real Madrid are currently at the level of Bayern Munich or Barcelona. I see that one of those 2 teams winning the competition.
Yeah. So if I have to make a choice of one of those 3, I agree with you, Real Madrid.
No, Cristiano. All right, let's rephrase this. I know that we really don't have a choice, but who would you prefer out of all these teams?
Well, I'll start by this. I agree with Pat. If it's between Barcelona, Bayern Munich, or Madrid, I want Madrid. But let's make this very clear. I don't want either of the 3. I don't want none of the 3. So hopefully, I'll stick with 2 big sharks. The 2 big sharks I would like is, 1, Atletico Madrid, because one thing, we've already beaten them in their own house. And number 2, right now, these guys, they're keeping all the clean sheets in the world, but they're also giving the other teams a clean sheet because they can't score on anybody. So that's the team I would like to face. And 1, just for personal pleasure, because of things that Patrick mentioned just a few minutes ago, the ignorance and the arrogance, right? I would love to play Manchester City and go over there and, squeak out a 1-0 win and find a way to come and hold that lead as stay to lose and then go through, and then maybe the English media will pay attention then. How about that? That's what I want. I want to face those clowns.
Yeah, it seems that everybody is wanting Benfica or Wolfsburg in this draw. So let's hope that when they're happy, when they get Benfica, let's hope that we surprise them like we did Zenit, because there was some players from Zenit that were quite happy and said that Benfica must be crying that they got us, and instead, what happened. But anyway, let me just set the stage on how everything is going to fit in. We will play Boavista this weekend, then we'll be off, then we will play Braga. After Braga, midweek, we'll play the first leg of the Champions League, then have Académica on the weekend. After Académica, midweek again, we'll play the second leg of the Champions League, and then we will finish up that cycle with Setúbal on the weekend. So that's how we set up. Of course, the Braga game, very important game, even though it's at Estádio da Luz, very important game that comes up before the Champions League game. And Académica, I guess it could be a tricky fixture, but nonetheless still has to be played and still has to be taken serious. So that's how it falls off, how everything falls into place as far as the Champions League and Benfica's regular schedule. So let's turn our attention now to the Tondela game that happened this past Monday. Benfica played last place Tondela at Estádio da Luz. I'll give you the lineup real quick before we get into anything else. Ederson, Semedo, Lindelof, Jardel, and Eliseu across the back. Feza and Talisca. Of course, Renato Sanchez that picked up his fifth yellow or fourth yellow, whatever, he served the suspension against Tondela. The one curious fact about that, actually, Renato Sanchez made his debut for Benfica against Tondela in a reverse fixture in the first round. Gaetan and Pizzi on the wings, Jonas and Mitroglou up front. And Patrick, I'll start with you. A clear choice by Rui Vitória to go with Semedo as he had André Almeida available. Do you think that's to give Semedo playing time because it wasn't a game with that hard of a difficulty?
No, I don't. I think it's reward for his fine performance against Zenit, where I thought he was very good. And I actually made the point on commentary. I think that in some ways he's come back, from what I can see, he's come back from his injury almost as a better defender. Before he was injured, he was winning plaudits and he got into the Portugal national side. And he was very exciting, but much of his fine work I felt was in the final third. Going forward as a modern attacking fullback, I felt there were some flaws in his positioning, as we've also touched upon with Eliseu. I think he seems to be, for whatever reason, a bit more switched on. Perhaps it was the fine form of André Almeida whilst he was injured. André Almeida had that great run in the side. Really, he was one of the stalwarts, one of the the sort of the unsung heroes in that run of terrific, that unbeaten run for Benfica, which I think the majority of the players that got the plaudits were the likes of Renato, and but there were players like André Almeida and Pizzi who were also involved in that run. It was very black and white. It was okay. Renato came in, made his debut for the last 15 minutes against Tondela, and then he started against Braga, and from then on he was a fixture of the side, and Benfica went from 7 points behind Sporting to eventually where they are now. But there are other players in that side, and one of whom was André Almeida, and he's a player I've criticised in the past, and I think he's had a very good season at right back as the season's gone along. But Semedo is clearly Rui Vitória's first choice, and it was a case of ease him back in after his injury, keep André Almeida installed until he does something wrong, but then he was suspended, wasn't he, against Zenit, so that gave Semedo an opportunity.
Yeah. So
he came and took his opportunity, and I think then it's a case of that. We've seen that before in the past with Samaris and Feza. When Samaris got suspended, then Feza came in for 3 games. Samaris was on the bench and only got back in when Feza got injured. It's a way that I like to see that style of management. I think that's everyone on merit really is what it is.
So do you think it's Semedo going forward?
I do.
Okay. And
look, I've said it numerous times, Alfredo, here on the pod, on Twitter, anyone that will listen. I think all things being equal, it's going to be Semedo. I thought it was only a matter of time before Semedo would regain his rhythm and his game form, and he would play over André Almeida just because he gives you a lot more options going forward. And let's not forget, this is the future of your team. And a lot of people wanted to criticize and not criticize, but disagree with me on it because Almeida, like Patrick has said, was going through such a good form at the time. But to me, the only reason why the kid lost out on his position is because he got hurt. because if he never gets
Yeah.
hurt, he'd still be the regular starter, and they would have kept him in there. So again,
Yeah.
I think as long as the kid is healthy, he's going to be the player that Benfica are going to put at that right back position. Now, not to say that they won't give him a day off here and there, but that's the future. That's the kid that they want at that position, and they want him to like
Yeah.
Patrick mentioned, get better defensively and improve. Because Andre Almeida is a very is a good backup. Let's leave it
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people after Semedo came back healthy in training. There was a lot of people clamoring for his return, but I thought that the timing wasn't right until now. That actually Semedo got to play in a big high stakes game in the Champions League, did well. So as Patrick said, Vitória has rewarded him with the start against Tondela. I'll be curious to see what happens in Boavista. It'll be a clear telltale sign of who will be going forward for the rest of the week or who will be playing for the rest of the week. But Cristiano, this game coming right after two very big wins for Benfica, one against Sporting and one against Zenit, of course. It wasn't the best performance by Benfica, but this was a very tricky game for Benfica.
I don't know about tricky. It was a game that Benfica, should have won on paper and should have won on the field. I think to me, though, the first half, and I get on Vitória about this over and over again, guys. And I know a lot of people want to praise Vitória because Benfica's, at the end of the day, they're coming home with the victory and the 3 points, and that's all that matters. But Benfica took the early lead on a corner. Jardel capitalizes on that. And then it's like they took their foot off the pedal and they were content with giving the ball to Tondela. We're talking about a team in last place in the Portuguese league, and they had the better possession in the first half. They were controlling things. Yeah, they didn't have the quality of players up front to make a difference when they got into the attacking third, but at least they kept the ball, they touched it around, and we were the ones that were on our heels defending. And then we came on a counter, great individual, not individual, I should say, but great team play, a great build-up by everyone involved in that play, and then Gaetan eventually crosses over to Jonas, who converts it. But until then, it was like, okay, Benfica took the lead and they were content. And that's the thing that I get pissed off over and over again with Rui Vitória, man. It's just, I hate the fact that we give away possession. We do it every big game. We've done it against Sporting. We've done it against Porto. We've done it against Zenit. And then only against Sporting, a miracle prevented us from losing this game. Against Porto, it bit us in the ass. And against Zenit, you know what? We were tough enough to come out of this and convert and fight through it and converting and not take the lead, but get the tie at the time. And then then they kind of like gave up because they knew they only had 5 minutes to score. And then, my boy, Deixou Talisca Jogar came through and gave Benfica an additional $750,000. But it's just one of the criticisms I have regarding Vitória. It seems like he's content with taking an early lead and then just sitting back. And then, this is a game that Benfica should have won hands down. The talent on the field is not even – dude, it's so far apart. It's not even funny. And so to me, it's like tricky. What was tricky about it? It's the team in last place. You're a team that wants to win the title. You should win this game. There's nothing tricky about it.
But it could have been a trap game, if you want to call it. The classic trap game, a first against the last team, coming off two huge wins of perhaps the two biggest wins of the season, and then facing a team that's in last place. It could have been a trap game. But I got to say here, I got to praise Tondela's style. They never really parked the bus, and they pressured Benfica up. The team was up, and they played pretty open.
Which was crazy because if you go look back at the beginning of the season, you see the Boavista team's coached by Petit. That's all they did. They packed it in. And now he gets fired, and he takes over, I think, for Vitor Pineda. I'm pretty sure that's who he took over for at Tondela, unless they had an interim coach in between. I'm not sure.
They did. Rui Bento.
Okay, another Benfiquista, a former Benfiquista. But, he comes in and all of a sudden he's gung-ho, he's going forward, which I was surprised because that's not Petit's style.
And Patrick, you had a chance to call the game for Benfica TV, the obviously English commentary, as you guys all know what Patrick does. But Patrick, a Monday night against the team in last place, and Benfica packs 51,000 at Stade de Luz. Tell us a little bit about the atmosphere at the game.
Yeah, fifth largest attendance of the season. We had a previous Monday night game recently against Nacional, which was the game that was postponed because of more bad weather in Madeira. We've discussed that before, and there wasn't anywhere near the same attendance that night. No, it was great. You can tell from how the crowd is, from how many people turn up, from how early they get to the game, from the excitement around the concourse area on your way into the ground. You can really gauge Benfica's progress and their league position from all of that. And having spent just 2 weeks out of 26 now at the top of the table, sorry, it's 3 now. It's week 1. It's following the win over Sporting, so it's week 25, and now week 26 over Tondela. So only 3 times, only for 3 weeks have Benfica been top this season. Albeit you could say the most important thing is being top this week. So the fans have had to wait. There's been a lot of and you guys have chronicled this very well on the program. There has been a lot of reticence about Rui Vitória. No one's been particularly sure about him. He has been criticised. The team did take some time finding their feet. There was that big deficit in points, and I think it's all starting to come together now. And that's in spite of significant absentees. And the atmosphere was terrific. It was in the paper. There was talk on the day that the Benfica were going to exceed 50,000, which had only happened on 4 other occasions this season. Which was Estoril on the opening day, as obviously back-to-back champions, one of which was Sporting, one of which was Porto, the usual games. So to get 50,000 against Tondela, I don't think is something that we'd necessarily expect. As you said, top against bottom, 48 points between the two sides, etc. Everyone really knew how the game was going to finish. But I think it was, as much as anything, it was the Benfica fans coming, Benfica fans coming out to really acclaim the team after those 2 great wins, which were by no means expected. I remember we spoke here and we said we would have taken a couple of goalless draws against Sporting and Zenit, and Benfica went one better on both scores. So I think it was really. It was recognition of the fine work that they've done and the big 2 wins they got the previous week, and it made for, at times, a great atmosphere. They went a bit quiet. They were able to pick Benfica up when the tempo dropped, and Cristiano's right, as he occasionally is,
Hey Patrick, even a broken clock is right twice a day.
That the tempo did drop, and they did switch off after the opening goal, which was frustrating because it came from a set piece. It wasn't like they were able to break down Tondela at will. So when you see that, it is slightly concerning, because you feel if you play someone like Braga at home and you score an early goal, that's when you really want to put your foot down and make sure that you get into the game and try and get 2 or 3 up by half time and kill that game as soon as possible. I'd have much rather seen Benfica kill the game by half time, which essentially it was. It was 2-0, but I've preferred to see them go in at 3-0 at half time, and then you can start to manage it. Then you can get Salvio on for a full half, and as opposed to 40 minutes. I know it's a slight difference, but yeah, the atmosphere, coming back to your question, was terrific, and I think we will consistently see crowds of 50,000 between now and the end of the season, as Benfica go in search of a 3rd straight league title for the first time in 39 years.
Totally agree. I think this was a statement by the Benfica fans. This is a collaboration by the club, by the fans, by everyone that's been making this, juntos, together. We're going to win this together. And I think after such a spectacular week, I think this was a statement by the Benfiquistas in Portugal to come out and show a sign of support, letting everyone know that we're here for you guys. We appreciate what you've done over the week, rather than just, say it's a Monday, it's a work night. They came out and they sacrificed for the club, which was beautiful to see, man. Absolutely beautiful to see.
Yeah, so not the best performance, but very effective one. And you guys have mentioned the second goal by Jonas was only the second chance we really created in that half, and we put that away. And that's kind of been the story of the season, our effectiveness in the way we've been able to put balls away with creating very little opportunity. So a very important win. We have 8 games left.
Mas espera. Before you go to the games, let's talk a little bit more about this game. Pistolas scores 2 goals to go top of the European table as the most, leading scorer for the at least the leading guy right now for the Botadoiro.
Yeah.
Another one, because I'm one of these moods today to praise people that everyone loves to knock, and that's Talisca, man. Talisca, I don't understand why he gets such hate from everyone that watches.
I thought he was horrible.
I thought he had a dreadful game. I really do.
Listen, he doesn't do the big, bright, shiny thing. But I thought he was tremendous at spreading the ball. Go watch the guy. The guy doesn't take 2 touches anytime. He gets the ball, he gets it moving, he spreads the field.
I thought he was horrible.
He had four misplaced passes in the first half.
Okay, that's 4.
I thought he was horrible.
Which is a lot. And
distinguishable difference.
He was hooked after about 55 minutes. He was pulled off by Rui Vitória. This was his 4th start of the season. And you think let's get 90 minutes. He was
that's fine.
He didn't do enough. Didn't do enough to stay on the pitch.
Pat, that's fine. That's fine. He had some misplaced passes, which no one could deny that. That's fine. But Pizzi, I thought, had a horrible game as well. The guy never gets subbed out.
No, I disagree. I
disagree.
I think Pizzi's a lot more consistent. I think what he offers you is...
Pizzi gets it to the attacking third, and then it's like, okay, somebody chopped off his head. He forgets what to do with the ball. The guy turns the ball over more than anyone else on this Benfica team in the attacking third. The guy's like clueless at times.
Pizzi certainly has his flaws. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's a flawless player by any stretch of the imagination. This is someone who's got half a dozen assists. This is someone who scored 4 goals, I think, in the league as well.
Like you mentioned prior to the game, this is his 17th consecutive game. Of course, he's gonna get play. He's gonna get chances, and against half of the shit clubs in the Portuguese league, he better get assists. He better get assists.
All right, I'll take that back. Let's not look at that. Let's not take it down to pure numbers, because if we do that, then you can look at Talisca scored the 6th goal in a 6-0 win over Belenenses. Talisca scored the 6th goal in a 6-0 win over Maritio. Talisca scored the 2nd goal, which was apart from a financial perspective, he scored the 2nd goal against Zenit, which, as you said, net Benfica a bit more money.
With his right foot, take that.
But I have been a supporter of Talisca in the past. I've defended him. I've said that technically he's very good, that he always looks to play forward, that he plays on a half turn, all these things that I tweeted in the build-up to the match. But he had a very disappointing game. He missed his chance. He really did. He had some misplaced passes in the first half, a couple of which where I think that the teammate receiving the ball was culpable, and maybe that just comes down to them not being used to playing with one another. But he's had very few first-team opportunities. Renato was suspended. Go out and make a statement, and I thought once again he disappointed, and I was disappointed because I gave him a big billing.
Who in the first half made a statement? I don't think anyone in the first half made a statement. I thought Benfica, like we've talked about just minutes ago, I thought everyone was lackadaisical after that first goal. Okay, they settled. And again, I'm watching in the individual things. Yes, you might have had, misplaced passes. Like I said, Pat, I'm not questioning you. I'm not doubting what you saw. I'm just going based on what I look for in a player. And I think in a player at that position where his job is to spread the ball, go watch. Plenty of times he's under pressure. He finds a way to just turn real quick with the outside of his hook, play the opposite wing. I mean, I pay attention to things like that. That's not a Viqueira. That's not a Jardel Viqueira, and it happens to hit a dude in the chest, and it looks like a great pass. You know what I mean? I watch.
You also got to be very accurate. You also got to be very accurate in that position, Chris. And that was probably something that he wasn't, as Patrick has mentioned. To me, I'm not sold on Talisca, but I think it's definitely a missed opportunity. There was a clear improvement when Pizzi left the wing and came to the middle. Of course, Salvio substituted Talisca. Then Salvio went to the wing, Pizzi came to the middle. There was a clear difference and improvement in Benfica's midfield play with Pizzi in the middle. And, that's not saying much. I know that Pizzi played in the middle last season, but he's not perhaps that classic 8 that we're looking for, like Renato Sanchez.
The game changed once Toto came into the game, onto the field, and I don't think it had anything to do with the fact that Talisca was off the pitch. I think it was to do with the fact that Toto, his first touch, the guy beat like 6 guys on the right side, came through almost, put the ball to Mitroglou, almost scored with a heel, with the back heel. I thought it was due to Toto's game, the fact that he spread the defense, the fact that he could take people all, one-on-one. Tondela all of a sudden knew they had to drop back because of this guy's speed, something that Pizzi was not doing. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I'm being critical. I'm doing exactly what people do for Talisca, which is over-criticize, and I'm doing the same thing for Pizzi. I think I'm being a little bit over too critical, but it's just things that I see the guy do that, game after game. Maybe he needs a break. I don't know. Maybe he needs some rest. Game after game, I see him do just stupid little decisions that I just shake my head at all the time.
Cristiano, here's one for you from our audience on Twitter.
Olá, amigos.
Benfica Podcast. Francisco Marcelino And I'm not even going to tell you his Twitter because this would just aggravate you to no end. He says, "How about dropping PT for Salvio for the final games?" He says yes. Cristiano.
Listen, I think right now PZ needs to sit down. Or I don't know, just give the guy a break and bring in Salvio. Because I want to see Salvio. Listen, if the guy's held, let's be honest, if Salvio's 100%, he's playing. So same thing we did with Smithu. We gradually got him into game shape, got him into game form, got him into the game. I like to see the same thing do with Salvio. I think Salvio's a way better player than PZ, and so if you get this guy anything close to 100%, now with these big Champions League games coming up, yeah, I think I would do it. Give PZ a break because like Patrick mentioned, like you guys mentioned, he did go through a stretch where he played really well. I was critical, and even I came on Twitter, came on here and said, I think he's doing this to shut me up. He's been playing well of late, but at the same time, I praise him when I think he's good, and I'm going to knock him when I think he's bad. And of late, he has not been good. You can't tell me he was good against Sporting. You can't tell me he was good against Zenit. And if you think he was good this week, I don't know, maybe we're watching a different game, but, I'm not going to sit here and argue with you over that.
Yeah, but I think Cristiano Salvio's inclusion in the starting 11 it depends a lot on Rui Vitoria's game idea. There's no doubt that he's probably a better wing player than Pizzi is, but perhaps Vitoria wants somebody that could be more interior. And that's
Vitoria, let's not forget, Vitoria and Pizzi go way back to his Passo Ferreira days. It does. They have a long-term relationship.
When he scored a hat-trick against Porto at the Dragão, lest we forget.
Oh, for Passo Ferreira?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was going to say for Benfica. I'm like, what game are you talking? Do you have me think? No. Yeah, but, he does have a long relationship with the guy. He's going to play PZ as long as PZ produces. I just think that it's if Salvio gets back into his game rhythm and he gets back to as close to 100% as he was before, he's going to have no choice but to include this guy in the starting lineup. I don't care about what kind of tactics he's going to choose. Talent wins out. You know what I mean?
I think that, if talent wins out, why isn't that up playing? Anyway.
Why you? Come on, man.
I think just to interject on this, I think it's working very well at the moment. I completely agree with Chris. I think Vitoria is managing Salvio much the same way he managed Semedo in terms of reintroducing him to the side, and I think it's working very well because not only are you gradually giving him more game minutes. I mean, that was 40 minutes on Monday night. Which has marked him previously been sort of 15, 20. And I think it's working well because he's also a very good impact sub. Benfica's tempo had just started to drop a little bit, and he gave the game that little boost and impetus, and he's very direct. Yeah. And I actually think, I don't think he'll start at Boavista, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Salvio starting at right wing against Braga in the next home game.
Epa! I definitely think that Salvio is going to be an important part of this run to the title for the remaining of the season. I just don't know if he'll outright sit Pizzi in favor of Salvio just yet.
Well, I think he's gonna reward him for his overall play throughout the season, and again, I think his long-term relationship with him is definitely gonna help, but. Again, this is all a conversation that, might be for no point. The dude, Salvio needs to get back to 100%. If he doesn't, he's not going to play. But I think if he does, if he gets anywhere close to it, he's going to have a very difficult decision because he's not sitting Gaitan. He's not sitting Fej if Fej is healthy. Fej, I think, is locked up that center mid position. As long as he's healthy, he's going to play. Yeah. The kid, Renato, is going to play. The only one that's up for grabs is going to be that right wing position, that right mid position. I think it's unfortunately for Pizzi, I think he's the odd man out. And the other thing before we leave this game, let's not forget, Gaitan left the game with some type of knock. He has to be. Yeah. It didn't look serious because he did walk off on his own and he stayed on the bench the whole day. If it was serious, he would have gone inside for X-rays or whatever.
Timo was asking about the status. I don't believe Benfica has published anything. I think it was just a knock. It might be just some kind of a bruise. I think the game was pretty settled by then. I think he didn't really need to be out there, especially after playing against Zenit midweek. Maybe he needed a little bit of rest. So I don't think it's anything anything important or that we should be worrying about. But Cristiano, one last thing that I wanted to talk about before we move on to the next topic. A lot of talk about Mitroglou picking up that yellow card that will have him suspended against Boavista. Took off his shirt after scoring a goal. There's conflicting views. There's some people that say that he took it off on purpose to clean up his yellow so he could be played against Braga. And there's people like you that think that he went against orders from the coach.
Bro, I watched the game on Benfica TV, and sorry, Patrick, not in English, but in Portuguese. And they panned to Rui Vitória plenty of times, and Calado and the play-by-play guy, I don't know his name, they mentioned it on various Elder, whatever, they mentioned it a couple of times, how furious, and you could tell Rui Vitória was screaming and getting on Mitroglou for that. You could tell he was upset at the fact that
he was furious. He was right below us. It was the thing that I spotted out of the corner of my eye.
Thank you, Pat.
The celebrations, Mitroglou ran to the opposite corner, and right below us, it was he was gesticulating so wildly that you couldn't help but notice Rui Vitória. Now, I said to Carlos, my colleague, after the game, off air, I said, well, was that a very good piece of acting? It doesn't really seem in Rui Vitória's nature, though, that was all a ruse. I mean, under the previous manager, potentially you could say, get suspended now so you miss Boavista, so you're not in danger of getting suspended for the Braga game. But I think the Boavista is a tough game, and I know they're 16th in the table, they're just above the relegation zone, but that means they are fighting for points. They've got a bit of a cushion over Académica and Tondela. But Jardel, that was a needless yellow card. He's suspended. Because of the mix-up in the first half, that was not deliberate. And then Mitroglou was you could tell he was frustrated all game. He felt that he's obviously looked at the game on paper and said, I'm going to get more goals here. And it wasn't happening for him. And you could see there was almost this strange desire to get the ball to Mitroglou. I think they were all trying to provide him with a goal. Jonas scored 2 again. I mean, incredible, really, how clinical he is. And they all wanted Mitroglou to get his goal. It seemed a big relief, which is ludicrous. It was almost as if this is a player that had gone a year without scoring from his reaction and from the way the crowd erupted. And he took off his shirt, and Rui Vitória was furious. And then I watched afterwards as they were going back to the centre circle, and I watched the body language between it, and Rui Vitória was stood in his technical areas close to the edges,
staring at him,
just shouting until he got his attention, and then he was throwing his arms up saying, what are you doing? And Mitroglou didn't even know or remember that he was 1 game away from suspension. He was completely unawares.
See, Pat, this is why I love you, bro, because I see things very differently at times, and I think I look for certain things that while everyone else is looking right, I'm looking left, and sometimes I question myself, what the hell was I thinking? But thank you, you proved me right once again, because I told Alfredo this. People are saying that this was planned, and if it was planned, like you said, Pat, it was an Oscar-winning performance from Rui Vitória. Because
step aside, Leo.
Yeah, he exactly, step aside, Leo. He was not happy, and people are like, oh, why would he just take off his shirt so quick? Yeah, man, listen, you must have, I don't know, I don't want to try to play you out, but you must have never really played a game or something. Because sometimes you do things out on the field that you'll watch later on tape and what the hell was I thinking? But just your natural instincts and your excitement and everything just pops off. And so I just want to clear that up. Thank you for bringing that up, Alfredo. That was not planned. I'm sorry.
I think that maybe he just hit his goal scored clause. And he was celebrating getting that extra bonus. Who knows? But anyway, so as we mentioned, no Mitroglou and no Jardel for Boavista. Benfica will travel up to Porto to play Boavista this Sunday, 6:15 local. Boavista is currently 16th, 6 wins, 6 ties, and 14 losses. At home, 2 wins, 4 ties, and 8 losses. They have the least amount of goals scored at home in all of the Portuguese league. And they're going against the team that has the best goal-scoring record away.
That's what,
10 consecutive away wins in all competitions, a club record. That's
most
10
goals,
if you can get my hands in there.
Most goals scored since like 83, 84, correct? At this point. of the season, right?
Yeah.
At home, I think it's 40 goals in 14 games at home, which is the most since then. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just Jonas and Mitroglou together got 44 league goals. I mean, think about that. Jonas alone has more goals than I think the Bola, one of the newspapers, had 4 or 5 Portuguese clubs. I think he's got more goals than 4 teams in the Portuguese league, 4 teams in Spain. I don't know how many more in Holland and in Germany. The guy El Mamá.
28 goals in the league, 30 in all competitions, and he got to 30 70 days quicker than he did last season, which was on the final day when he scored 2 against Maritimo. He got 31 overall. So a goal against Boavista will equal his tally in all competitions from last time. He's still involved in the Taça Liga, still involved in the Champions League. Yeah. He's likely to play in all remaining 8 league games. Touch wood if he's fit. I mean, the guy could comfortably break 40.
And Patrick, let's not forget, some people are questioning his signing, but we'll move on to another topic.
And even I was saying he wasn't having the best season earlier on this season, so I'll hold my hands up as well. I know Neil called me out on that, and rightly so.
I have to say that Neil calling you out. I have to say that Jonas is two goals away from equaling a record set by Mats Magnussen back in the 89-90 season. I don't think, Patrick, were you alive back then?
I was born in the heady summer of '86 during the World Cup.
No,
so just about.
That's way back in them short days, baby. That's what Benfica. That dude, I used to love Magnussen when I was a little kid. Man, I was like 11 at the time. Magnussen, Nene, Diamantino, wow, man, Carlos Manuel, those teams are sick, man.
Yeah, those teams were sick.
Clown-ass Valdo.
So, and talking about records, also, last loss to Boavista was 10 years ago for Benfica. So it's set up, look, there's nothing to it. Benfica knows what they have to do. They will go up to Porto to play, to Estádio do Bessa to play Boavista. Again, I don't think that at this point the red wave that we saw this past Monday at Estádio da Luz is going to subside. I think that the 12 players are going to carry the team for the remainder of the season, whether we bow out of the Champions League or not. I think that it's been quite a remarkable season, and we'll have a chance to look back in the season once we wrap up the season. But right now, I think that there's all of the fans are going to be behind this team, and the team has said numerous times that they're very happy with the way they're supported by their fans, and they really have said that fans are a huge factor in their success this season. So people are excited to go and support the team. I know that if I was in Portugal, I'd definitely make the trip up north to go support the team. But it is what it's going to be. I mean, we got 8 games left, and we got to win them all. And that's it. We'll be 3 campeões. That's
a big point you make, Alfredo. I do think that it's going to be a case of winning them all. I think Sporting will drop points maybe once or potentially twice. But lest we forget, it's a 2-point cushion. However, if Benfica were to draw and Sporting would win, Sporting would go top in that case because they still have the superior head-to-head, which means Benfica have to keep winning their games. There's a good feature in a Bola on Monday, which basically showed including the Tondela game, it had the 9 games remaining for Benfica, and the headline was Benfica won all of these 9 games in the first half of the season. If they were to do that again this time around, they will be champions. It's easy on paper. It's a lot more difficult in practice. I think the Braga game will go a long way towards deciding where the league title goes. I don't foresee, besides that game, I don't see any potential bumps in the road. At home, away from home, you never know. You can never be sure, but it's 10 consecutive away wins in all competition. If you can win at Alvalade and you can win at Zenit, you need to be winning away at Boavista. You need to be winning. I think we have to go to Setúbal as well, which they will be up for as well because it's not too far away. So, but I do think it has to be win the games and don't worry about anyone else.
Yeah, Sergio asks on Twitter, which of the last away games, which one concerns you guys the most? I think definitely Rio Ave and Marítimo concern me because it's always been hard to play at the Madeira, even though it's like a mini Estádio da Luz. And Rio Ave has had quite an exceptional season. this year. What else?
Benfica lost as well in Vila do Conde last season. Luizão was sent off in that game, 2-1.
That's right.
So yeah, that's and Maritimo was always tricky. It's always tricky to go to Madeira, always.
Yeah, and Patrick, your compatriot Pete Domican, he says he walked into he walked into the Marisa concert in London tonight behind Jose Mourinho, and he asked, "Should I have tackled him from behind?"
Well, I don't know. He's still out of work, so he probably. I'm not sure he's insured at the moment for accident or injury. So probably made the right decision there. But hopefully we'll see him back on the scene next year. But I saw some quotes being attributed to him on Twitter earlier. I don't know if they were true about Rui Vitória or whether that was a spoof or not. I decided against retweeting it. It was something praising Rui Vitória on how he's been upstanding in his behaviour and correct throughout the season, which seemed, I thought it was a spoof because it seemed completely contrary to what Mourinho represents himself. I'm a big Mourinho fan for what he achieves as a winner, but it seemed very odd for someone like Mourinho to come out and really extol such virtues. So if anyone can shed some light on whether those quotes were true or not, then that'd be good to know, because if they are, it's probably worth spreading that around the social media sphere. But there you go. He pops up everywhere, apparently.
Yeah. And again, Sergio has a funny one. He says that Talisca is our Obi Mikel. Does anyone know what he does? No, but he's got a cool name.
There you go. I've never rated Obi Mikel. I think he's won a lot of competitions. John Obi Mikel's won a lot more than his talent necessarily deserves. But when I saw him live the other day at Stamford Bridge, he impressed me, actually. I was keeping an eye on him, and he does do a lot of dirty work, and he's better technically than you think. But as is Talisca, by the way, he's quite good technically. He just needs to want it. There you go.
Yeah. And here's one last one from João Gomes. If Gaetan can't play, we will lose 3 players against Boavista, Gaetan, Mitroglou, and Jardel. Who do we put in? And you suggest Guedes, Jimenez, and Samaris. I think that's a pretty good one. Even though I don't know, on the left side, I'd put Guedes on the left side. What do you think?
I think that's the question mark.
Yeah, he had a good comeback yesterday. I thought he did well for a kid who's been away for quite some time. He showed a lot more composure. Maybe he's been learning a lot. But I think I would go with Guedes on the left.
I think that makes sense. Samaris is the obvious choice. I think it's almost by default. So you're going to revisit the centre back pairing from Zenit. So you hope that they combine well again, Lindelof and Samaris. Jimenez for Mitroglou is very straightforward.
Yeah,
and then probably Guedes. I think there is no natural player to come in on the left for Gaetan. So you're looking at Guedes. He was good against Tondela. I thought he enjoys playing against it. He scored in the reverse fixture, so good chance for him. But it's or potentially you pick Grimaldo and you push Eliseu onto left midfield and say have a go at them. I'm sure Cristiano would enjoy that.
Yeah. So that's about it. Cristiano actually dropped off, so he's no longer here. That's why you don't hear him. But I think that's about it, Patrick. I think we covered pretty much all. I think we're definitely over an hour, and we covered a lot of ground and a lot of subjects. So I hope everybody enjoyed. You can find Patrick on Twitter, Patrick Kendrick, only one K in there, and at Benfica Podcast, at 10CO10, benficapodcast.com, planetbenfica.co.uk. Shout out to everybody who has taken the time to check us out. At one point we had up to I think 21 viewers, so I hope that everybody enjoyed this, and don't forget to check us out on iTunes, subscribe on iTunes, RSS feed, Stitcher Radio, rate us on iTunes, don't forget. And I think that's it. Patrick, do you have anything else you wanted to add or plug? Or
no, not at all. Let's just let's hope for another win in Porto at the weekend.
Yeah,
and on we go towards number 35.
Yeah, and then we have a week to rest and to regain some strength, maybe get some people that are a little bit hurt at this point of the season, get them back to some decent percentage of health. That includes Lisandro. I don't mind seeing Lindelof in the back, but it's good when you have Lisandro as a backup in case something happens. Samaris did well against Zenit, but we don't know what he's capable of. He's been very inconsistent this year, so we'll just have to see. So for Patrick, Kendrick, for me, my name is Alfredo, and for Cristiano, thanks very much for checking us out, and we'll see you again next week. See you, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.